Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wa salatu salamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir al-Quran with the jewels of the Quran and spears. We are reading in Surah Fatir. We began in the last session with the with verses 1 to 8, 1 to 7. Imam Ghazali selected 7 verses, 5 and 6, then 15 to 18, and 29 and 30. And as we have been doing thus far, we try to cover the whole surah, since Imam Ghazali did not specify, did not comment why he chose a specific verse and not the other, which could be the case that people are aware. He wanted to highlight a certain message. For example, 5 and 6. أعوذ بالله السميع من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الناس إن وعد الله حق فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. O humanity at large, indeed Allah's promise, God's promise is true, so do not let the life of this world deceive you, nor let the chief deceiver, Satan, the devil, deceive you about Allah. إن الشيطان لكم عدوا فاتخذوه عدوا إنما يدعو حزبه ليكونوا من أصحاب السعير. Surely Satan is an enemy to you, so take him as an enemy. He only invites his followers to become inmates of the blaze. People might be tempted, people might be deceived, people might have a weakness that Satan, probably Satan is the most knowledgeable about among you talk about amongst our foes, about our own weaknesses, and he utilizes our weak points. But the idea is, some people directly worship Satan. They have a contract with Satan. They swear to Satan. Lucifer, I don't know how they get themselves trapped into this. Same thing applies to magicians, those who repented. They spoke about such a contract. Satan is your sworn enemy. He pledged before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will be on our path, لَأَقْعُدَنَّ لَهُمْ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمَ, on this straight path, trying to swerve you, trying to basically push you away as much as possible from the straight path. So maybe this is why Imam Ghazali chose these 2 verses, for example, as jewels, as pearls. We continue reading, inshallah. الذين كفروا لهم عذاب شديد والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء فلا تذهب نفسك عليهم حسرات إن الله عليم بما يصنعون. Those who disbelieve will have severe punishment, but those who believe and do good will have forgiveness and a great reward, as are those whose evil doing is made so appealing to them that they deem it good, like those who are rightly guided. It is certainly Allah who leaves to stray whoever He wills and guides whoever He wills. So do not grieve yourself to death over them. Addressing the Prophet ﷺ, this is like at the beginning of Surah Al-Kahf. Surely Allah is all-knowing of what they do. So some people, obviously, they simply reject. They are outside the realm of religion altogether. They reject. They are rejectors. They are disbelievers. They simply reject, they are outside. But there are those who consider themselves from within the Muslim family, one way or the other. Uh, and maybe they are, okay? But the problem is with those people is that they are not fully submitting to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Uh, Usually, people, it could be intellectuals, academics, and I do have. I'm going to read part of a letter. Not going. The context is really asking the question: just how Islamic is progressive Islam, and one of the those academics in the United States, she responded by saying, "I think the premise that Islam's also been between brackets, cannot be understood outside of their contextual matrix is a strong one. I absolutely agree with the progressives or with progressives that traditional interpretations of the religion are colored by the social, political, cultural, linguistic context in which they emerged. So, given this, progressives will argue that Muslims today have the right to challenge these traditional workings because they are the products of fallible human minds, with all the hierarchies of inequality that their cultures manifested. And a scholar living in 11th century Baghdad say has no priority in right to interpret the holy text over one living today, say Texas, USA. There are other parts that uh, I will reach, inshallah. Okay, assume for 1 second that the interpretations are colored of the past. The traditional interpretations are colored by the social, political, cultural, linguistic context. Wouldn't the same apply to the progressives? That's not apparent in the text. Uh, Around 19, between 1993 and 1995, I was on the main campus. I did spend another year at ISTAC, the International Islamic Institute for Islamic Thought and Civilization, which is technically still part of the International Islamic University. But when I was on the main campus, we were invited once to meet with a group that call themselves Sisters in Islam. Uh, so the dean sent, invited few of us. I was invited, and okay, Sisters in Islam. It might cross one's mind that these are like a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, Sisters in Islam. Apparently not. When we went to the hall, none of them was wearing uh, a head cover. None of them was wearing fully like. I remember very well. One of them, she came hair pants and a white t-shirts. Really, what we wear, undergarment. Really, that's what she wore to the university. And this particular sister, she said, I want to interpret the Quran. Okay. I asked her one question. Do you know Arabic? She said, no. It's almost like picking uh, a fight. She wanted one of us to say, no, you cannot, because she's a woman, for example. That's not the case. We have women Who interpreted the whole Quran? We have one in Jerusalem. She's still living. Uh, the wife of the former Mufti of Jerusalem and Palestine. A massive work, interpretation. Nobody said she cannot. But this lady here, the sister in Islam, she wanted to interpret the whole Quran without really knowing Arabic. So if she's going to interpret a translation of the meaning into English, for example, that's all the interpretation. Every single translation is an interpretation. So she's going to interpret an interpretation. That's fine, even if she chooses to comment on that, that's still fine. But the idea is that she will be also uh, one way or the other. That group, those Sisters of Islam, is a feminist group. Are they colored by their own social, political, cultural, linguistic context? Obviously, yes. Now, this letter uh, goes on, and and I quote, affirming LGBTQ plus rights is a moral pillar of modern secular progressivism, which means that Muslim progressivism, a fruit of the ideology of secular progressivism, must similarly take up this as a jihad. You see how, where we have reached? So, the idea is you must interpret. It says that uh, progressive Islam demands that Islam itself must be interpreted in such a way as to theologically affirm homosexual relationships. And that's really ideological. That's ideological. That's not an academic work. That's not really an Islamic work. So to go back, whether someone in the 11th century has a priority over someone in the 21st century, it's not because of time. Even if you have existed at the time, even if someone from the 11th century is, uh, you know, uh, speaks to us today, uh, his line of thought, his methodology will not be colored by these ideological uh, trends. Let's say, what else you will basically uh, uh, include under the must be interpreted to accommodate whatever is coming our way. Um, oh, everything. What will be next? We should affirm the use of recreational drugs, marijuana, for example, and make it also uh, halal, and wine and gambling. And so the idea here is that it is considered jihad. أفمن زين له سوء عمل فرآه حسنة, as those whose evil doing is made so appealing to them, that they deem it good. They deem it good. They deem it jihad. I like this is like one of the highest levels of struggling for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it addresses the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do not grieve yourself to death over them. It's not that we are grieving ourselves to death over them, but the idea is that it is it's her position, her letter is it's a moral obligation for us. It's a moral obligation also to respond and to show that this is absolutely un-Islamic. That would answer the original question, just how Islamic is progressive Islam. If this is the issue, then it is un-Islamic. It is un-Islamic, and I'm not going to shy away. If they have the courage to do that, we should have the moral courage, the religious obligation to point to this position. والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد ميت فأحيينا به الأرض بعد موتها كذلك النشور. And it is Allah who sends the winds, which then stir up فتثير سحابا, stir up vapor forming clouds, stirring up clouds, and then we drive them to a lifeless land, giving life to the earth after its death. Similar is the resurrection. We mentioned before that the Quran uses two words for wind. الرياح when it's when the outcome is good, ريح when the outcome like a storm, a punishment, that will be ريح. ريحا صرصرا عاتية. ريح صرصرا عاتية. And you just choose one example from this life to move to the other. ريح صرصرا عاتية. Imam Ghazali says that you فاعتبروا يا أولي الأبصار. Imam Ghazali said that فاعتبروا عبرة. It's basically as if you move from this, from our universe, from the examples, from the natural phenomena, to think about what could happen in the other world, in the hereafter, or in this case, really right at the right between. So life, as we know, it ends, and then there is resurrection. This is the example of a land, a lifeless land, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drives rain, and then it comes to life. Similar is the resurrection. كذلك النشور. And so we should, the hearts, there are certain hearts that could transcend. There are hearts that could only see what they see literally. They don't see except that the material really realm without any metaphysics. Also, for example, you see the foliage, it's beautiful. All these yellow, orange, brown, maroon, all these colors in autumn. But that's a phase of death, a phase before death, if you will. How people's colors, when the skin becomes pale, very yellowish, the one that precedes death. This life is temporary, and humans are mortals. Every being on earth is mortal. من كان يريد العزة في الله العزة جميعا إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب والعمل الصالح يرفعه والذين يكفرون السيئات لهم عذاب شديد ومكر أولئك هو يبور. Whoever seeks honor and power, then let them know that all honor and power belongs to Allah. To Him alone good words ascend, and righteous deeds are raised up by Him. As for those who plot evil, they will suffer a severe punishment, and the plotting of such people is doomed to fail. Oh, yes. The first part, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this in Surah Al-Imran, يعز من يشاء ويذل من يشاء. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who dignifies, who honors. First of all, there's one level where all humanity is dignified, honored. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. All human beings are dignified, but they might choose to be rejectors, to be rebellious against. Uh, when we talk about against revelation, then it means against the will of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And we think that there is honor in titles, and Imam Ghazali himself says that al-alqabu min ash-shaytan. All these titles are the creation of the devil. The titles, the honorific titles that people bestow on themselves. You will not be called by your titles on the day of judgment. There's no your excellency, and no, you'll not be called by. It doesn't mean that we should be rude. No, we accommodate people, we accord people, we speak respectfully to people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He mentions His favors to the children of Israel, sending them prophets and kings. So yes, we do respect, but at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you, will provide for you, and everything is a test. The presence of something or the lack of it, the presence of health or sickness, wealth and poverty, but also to be a ruler or ruled. Everything is a test. So the good, the righteous, good words will reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Righteous deeds will reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are raised up by Him, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are people who plot evil. They plot evil day and night. We go to sleep and there are people who remain awake plotting evil. We wake up in the morning and we see that people indeed have plotted and performed, and this is not it could be also people who uh, on one level they say that they are Muslims but they still plot evil. Why then? In fact, we do have our lion's share. You think that yes, imperialism, yes, colonialism, yes, they interfere, and world powers, and how about us? Why we are succumbing to their evil plots for our own good? The unity amongst us is for our own good and also for the good of humanity. There is a need for a new paradigm, a new civilizational paradigm, an Islamic civilization that is moral. The next verses speak about creation, about life, about uh, pregnancy and birth, about nature, about the bodies of fresh water, lakes of fresh water and salty sea water. But from each, you will still get fresh, palatable meat. Talk about fish, and also as a way for traveling, and the natural phenomena, the day and the night, the sun and the moon, the different orbits, so that we may also recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Lord. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ لَهُ الْمُلْكُ. Inshallah, we will deal with all this in the next session. Until then, subhanakallah wa hamdik, shada la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.